A workplace may have many other languages other than English, your regional language, and you may also have colleagues that are fluent in other regional languages and belong to other regions. So the problem arises when you have to communicate, and some things may be lost in translation. So it is much better if you actually speak a common language. That common language is English, and it has been for a quite a long period of time. Given our history of being ruled by the British and so, and in the in the historic times, the British East India Company actually acquired a lot of land, and therefore a lot of countries got exposed to the language of English. So English was determined to be a simple language that is spoken by most and can act as an intermediary for any workplace or even some official documents. Now, the government of India does its business in several different languages. There are documents written in English, the regional languages, and Hindi as well. However, English documents actually are much better. The reason for this is not everyone is able to speak the regional language of a certain place, but everyone can actually understand and learn English at a much faster rate than a particular regional language. This also begs the question that why should English be favored? The thing is, English should be favored because the time period to learn English is very low. The language only has a 23 alphabet, a case of 23 alphabets, and they can be combined and taught to people in a much shorter span of time, along with the grammar that can easily be translated from one language to another. So the reason for spoken English is obvious. However, why should we prioritize English? Can't we just switch on to any other language and just give it the same level? Am I not audible? Mr. Anshul Jain is writing, I am not audible. Can you actually, am I audible, everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good enough. So the question then arises that why should we prioritize English rather than any other language? The answer to this is simple because we have already been exposed. It's much easier to prioritize a language that is already in effect rather than actually switch over to a different language. And the switch may not actually happen to other areas. So in those cases where you might actually need to have international communication, you may still need to resort to English back again. So there are several other things that that we can actually do. How is English at workplace different than English spoken elsewhere? This is also a question. Like, we may actually be speaking English normally in our everyday lives with our friends, our international friends, or other places. But how is the workplace English different than the normal English that you regularly speak elsewhere? Well, there are several factors, not just by the ones that are actually visible on your screen. The way of speaking actually changes. For example, in an official environment, in a workplace, the way of speaking should not actually have much emotion behind it. You need to be rather blunt and to the point. You do not have to actually argue with someone over any other thing. Uh, just a second. Uh, if anybody has their mic on, could you please turn it off? It's causing static. Uh, Hello? Okay. So the way of speaking changes. That is to say that the way you actually address someone has has to be less emotional and more. Uh, yes, good. Someone actually, I think someone's mic is still on. It's causing static. Okay. So the way of speaking changes over time. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. So the way of speaking changes in an official environment. The thing that I mean by this is that you cannot be much more emotional or in any way way of form deviate from the point of view. You argue to the point, you present your thoughts to the point in an official environment. There is no going around the topic, and there is no buttering up, so to speak. There are also certain formats that need to be followed in an official workplace environment. The formats meaning to say that there has to be a certain degree of communication, meaning that someone from an upper echelon from your position can speak to you in a different manner than you can speak to them. For example, a senior officer may talk to their junior officers in a much different manner than the junior officer may reply to their senior officers. This also introduces a different strata. In this strata, you will actually have to understand that the person you're talking to has a level or a position that is higher than yours or equal to yours, is maybe a colleague of yours or is a senior of yours. That also plays a huge part in a workplace, in the environment of a workplace. And so to speak, it also changes the way you speak English in that workplace. There's also something else as the third point. At the third point, we there have to be alternate and more eloquent ways of presentation of one's thought. Now, what do I actually mean by that? Normally, we can actually in a normal in outside of our workplace, we can actually speak in a much more casual manner with someone. If we don't like something, we can actually tell them that this is something that I don't like. However, in the workplace, that social strata that we just talked about, that comes into play. And that particular social strata also ensures that if you have to reject someone's opinion, or if you have to say no to someone's opinion, you have to do it in a much more civilized manner or in a much more considerate manner. Therefore, you have to find ways or words that are much more eloquent, and they do not actually just go and hit straight to the point. So these ways of presentation differ from the casual method to the actual, to the official method in a workplace. Then comes the uses of gestures and postures. Now, gestures and postures usually don't play a part, but in English and in a workplace, they most certainly do. For example, you can actually be laying down lax and be arguing to the point and have perfect English, but at that point, nobody's going to take you seriously. Same thing with postures and same thing with gestures. You may actually start gesturing towards something that is completely unrelated and hence lose any sort of focus or power in your point. There's also the intonation of your voice. Like, I can actually argue something to the point in a lower manner, in a softer tone, probably, or I can just start screaming like this. So the intonation also makes a huge difference in what is exactly what the speaker's intentions are, what they're trying to say. Are they distressed? Are they trying to talk normally? As such, a softer intonation is usually much more preferred at the workplace, as it does not allow any other any other any leakage of emotions, as to say. Now, how does the way of speaking change in the workplace? Shall we dive a little bit deeper into this aspect? Well, if we actually go to a workplace and we see the employees working there, they have a certain strata with which they have to address their colleagues, their seniors, and their juniors. They cannot exactly start yelling something at their juniors at a workplace, at a civilized workplace, or they cannot exactly start ordering around their seniors, because that is just not possible, and and vice versa. The thing is, the ways of speaking changes in a workplace in a way such as you will have to speak much more softly, much more considerately in a workplace, because everyone there will have to do the same to you. You all are there to work on a particular task, and that task needs to be accomplished, and that is why the workplace is a work strictly. And that is why the communication at the workplace has to be a work-centric communication. You have to argue, you have to communicate the particular points of a topic and have to exactly get your thought process to the next person on that point without having any external points involved in that point. This is the major difference from casual talk to workplace talk. In casual talk, you can actually talk about anything that comes to your mind. You can actually convey your thoughts, your messages, your emotions to the next person. However, in the workplace, the best thing you can convey to the person is your dissatisfaction or the slight tinge of emotion, and that can be done through words and slight intonations and gestures. However, and most likely, it is much more preferred if people are actually much more controlled in the workplace. Therefore, the way of speaking also changes much more than the casual English in the workplace. What are the formats that need to be followed? This comes under various varieties. The formats of written English, the formats of spoken English, the formats that we just discussed relating to the strata, and the different words, the words that have to be used that cannot be used in the workplace, etc., etc. So, let me give you an example. Actually, is the screen visible to everyone? Uh, is the screen visible to an in-call message so I can be sure? I just switched the screen, so is it visible?
Sir, good evening, sir. It is good, sir.
Thank you. So an example of the differing formats for a workplace would also include something like this, a sample employment letter. See, in this employment letter, the first few lines are basically the address of the person, the physical address, and then the city, the telephone number, etc. Then the date. Then in the body of the message, we can actually see that something, excuse me, in the body of the message, we can see that this particular letter is for the certification of that person's link to the said company, to the said organization. And we can see that this letter does not in any way, shape, or form address anything social or emotional like we loved when he worked here or something like this. However, however, it presents a point and it sticks to providing information regarding that point. In this one's case, it says I certified that, in brackets, name of the person receiving the income or employee is an employee of this particular company. Employee's name, gross income for this pay period is this, and frequency of pay is this. This letter does not guarantee employment or wages. This information provided above is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. Sincerely, name and job and title of the position. So we can see that that in a certain manner in a certain manner, this is a very strict format. In this format, nothing else will be discussed other than what this letter is particularly typed or forged for. Similarly, uh, is- for example, this a person is applying for a classified's job. However, this this will also come under English communication at a workplace. However, this particular person is applying for a job, and this particular person needs to show his interest, which is which can be showed by a certain set of emotions. You cannot exactly say something like, sir, I am very much pleased, sir, I really want this job. That would sound ridiculous in an official letter. That is why you have to respond in a manner that is that expresses your emotion and use different words. Let as we read this as we read this particular letter by Mr. John Doe. I am responding to an opening advertised for a firefighter within the city of Nathanville. My professional approach and training will provide your department with a proficient firefighter and experienced government employee who works hard and is fully credited for the job. I am extremely interested in contributing as a part of your team. See, in this first paragraph, this person has actually provided that he has the set of skills, the experience, and he will actually prove much more useful on their team. This not only shows the person's interest, but also shows what the person has to offer for the team. It basically credits him. It basically shows the employer that this person is much better for this job. However, there are other two paragraphs on this. Shall we get to them? In the second paragraph, he says that in my 16 years of government employee service, I have worked as an administrator, department leader in the last 11 as a firefighter slash EMT. In this first line, he is actually telling them that he has 16 years of working experience as a government employee. So something that he is much more familiar with is he's saying that he's much more familiar with on this job. He is also telling them that he has leadership qualities, as he mentions that he was a department leader for the last 11 years, and he has also been a firefighter. Now, in the next line, he says that I am fully certified in both areas, highly experienced in dealing and with the range of related emergency situations. I am also physically fit and agile and emotionally prepared for the tough situations faced in the job. He is essentially padding out his side of an argument, which is stating his accomplishments and then his current physique, then his work experience, along with what he can actually accomplish on the job. Then in the final line, he states, beyond my on-paper credentials, I am also passionate about this work. See, he could also have said, I really need this job and I love saving people, but that's just not going to cut it. Many people would like to do that. So what he says is, I'm also passionate about the work, meaning that whatever I do, I have high amounts of passion for it. I transitioned from being an administrative government employee to a firefighter. He actually is giving you a backstory, which is not something you actually do in an official document, but this is arguing to his point and in his favor, so he will do it in a manner that bypasses that rule. So he continues. He transitioned from a government employee to a firefighter because he loves to help people. Because I love that I get to help people in the critical situations, as well as knowing that I can educate people and prevent catastrophes before they strike. So he's essentially saying that rather than my desk job, I prefer to do field work and I'm very passionate about it. Now compare this to someone who will actually be a newcomer who will apply based on no particular experience or no way of telling someone how passionate they are about the jobs and not having proper language skills for that. That person will probably start with the first paragraph similar to this person's. However, in the second or the third paragraphs, the second paragraph, he will list out his physical capabilities uh, and his marks or his academic qualifications, any training he has in the firefighter school. And in the third paragraph, you will notice that in the case of a newcomer, that third paragraph will be very less. It will probably one or two lines at max. He will basically just say, I am very passionate about the work. I love doing this job. We don't use the word love in this. Anything regarding emotional or any words regarding any form of emotional or other forms of portrayal, we do not use in office in professional vocabulary. So that will be a point from his particular request or his CV or cover letter for his employer. Employers also like to, while reading the cover letters of certain employers also pay high attention to the distinction in each one of them. If you basically are following a format and copying and pasting something, they will most likely reject it. And therefore, everything has to come from you, everything has to come from your mind. And And in that form and manner, you have to actually be able to formulate your thoughts in a much more effective and official manner, so that the person reading that particular document knows that this person is able to have a comprehensive workplace ethic. Similarly, if a person is actually trying to leave an organization, that was the previous example was for a person joining an organization. This person is actually trying to leave a certain organization. Now, there can be ways in which a person can leave an organization. Maybe they've had a quarrel, the salary is not up to the mark, or something that they're just not satisfied with in the department or the environment that they were working in. However, there's a certain way to do something. You don't have to burn every bridge that you no longer have to take. Meaning to say that you don't have to incite quarrels or cite something that you are not very comfortable with in that particular workplace or environment. See how this person does it. The- Oh wait, yeah, this one actually. The previous one was for someone who has actually been released from their job. Sorry, my bad on that one. In this one, we can actually see that the person says, "Please accept my resignation form." After showing all his details, that person, in the body of this letter, we can see, "Please accept my resignation form. Firm," the name of the firm, "to be effective on date." He gives a date, state, new employment, if any. He's basically telling that I am currently employed elsewhere. If he's employed, if he's not, then he will not mention it, etc. I have recently, in this person's case, this person has been employed in another workplace or a different company. So this person will actually give the name of that workplace, and in the further body of the text, they write, "I have recently accepted an offer on the ABC company in Tucson, Arizona. I believe the position I have been offered there is better in alignment with my career goals." This person is saying that without telling their employer that I don't like working where I'm at your workplace, they're saying that a certain other place suits me better. This is in no way or this is in no way or shape or form trying to insult their current workplace. They are essentially telling the person that yours is nice, but his is nicer. I would like to take this opportunity to mention my employment here has been thoroughly gratifying and rewarding. I wish the firm success in the future, and I am sincerely proud to have had the opportunity to be with the XYZ firm for duration of certain period. Now, this person is actually now there are ways in which this person might have been disappointed or have been unsatisfied with the job that he had. However, instead of just stating what he was unsatisfied with, this person actually says that I actually enjoyed working there. In this way, he's actually trying not to hurt the employer or in any way or shape or form damage his future prospects, because because maybe in the future this person has to come and work here again. What then? If he burns those bridges, he's actually closing opportunities for himself. This is the difference between casual English and workplace English. We don't actually have to say everything that we feel. We have to say something that gets the job done, that gets our point across. Similarly, he then asks for the relieving letters, service certificates, and full and final settlements, work experience certificates, etc. So this would be an example of a resignation letter. There are other simple ways in which a company can actually. There are other cases in which a company can actually relieve an employee, or so to speak, fire an employee. So in the cases of a relieving letter, you can see that in this case, the previous one, that one was the employee leaving, and this one is the company relieving an employee. In this one, we can see that this is a reference to your letter on the date where you had requested the company to relieve you from the employment. This person had requested, and this is the answer letter from the company. We wish to inform you that your resignation letter has been accepted by our management. We wish to inform you you shall you shall be relieved from your duties as a scientific editor once you serve the notice period. The notice period that this person had given, she has to serve it, and then she will be relieved from her duties. The last date for the employment will be so and so, and then we can actually see that in this particular thing, the only thing that is not related to the point is the last line, and it is a wish. It is not an emotional wish. It is not something that is trying to make make amends or something, but it is a rather emotion. It is a wish that wishes the person that is leaving the company good fortune in their future endeavors. Other than that, there is nothing off the point in this whole letter. They could be like they could have in a casual environment we can actually think that they could have said stuff like, "Why are you leaving? Please don't leave. We can make it work," etc. But in a particular environment such as a professional environment or the official letters and the workplace, these formats need to be followed where the person has to argue or completely state their point effectively. You cannot actually go by doing something that is emotional or use certain words that are not allowed in an office setting or rather unheard of. So coming back to our presentation, so the formats that need to be followed, we just saw some of them. The thing is, how can in those formats we actually saw the ways in which particular people express their concerns, their thoughts much more eloquently than what they should have. Maybe someone got fired because of some unreasonable circumstance, or probably they were frustrated or something, but they never wrote it down as it was. Now that is basically saying that you can say stuff that is not true, but make sure that you don't squander your opportunities. So speak carefully or speak much better. In a way, we could say, for example, we can actually take an example of a person that is very frustrated with their job and is thinking about leaving, and now he's trying to draft a letter stating the different ways and formats why he's leaving. In his resignation letter, that particular person will start writing, "I have not been satisfied with the staff of this particular company or organization from the day I joined, etc., etc. It has not been fair. It has not fared me well, etc. I would much more prefer working at the new place I have received employment at," and so on and so forth. They will actually voice their complaints, etc. However, the point that that person is missing is that the letter is for resignation. That letter is not for feedback. So it is much better to instead go ahead and list out the reasons, list out that person is just leaving. No need to give a particular reason or something. Or even if you have to give a reason, you can simply state that the work environment somewhere else fits me much better. That is basically saying the same thing without telling them that this is something that you're bad at, according to me. Now, what do gestures and postures have to do with speaking? See, currently, if I let us take this particular call for example. If I just start and lean back like this, does it shows that I'm much more lax. I'm not paying attention to something, and I am not exactly invested in what I'm doing. I'm not exactly showing it any form of particular. I'm not exactly inclined towards what I'm doing, or it is not showing my attentiveness towards the particular matter. However, if I sit still and make particular eye contact with with the camera, or as per se, if you are sitting in front of me, you would much more rather think that this person is highly attentive. He's thinking, he is actually invested in this conversation that we are having. And this particular thing would be known as a posture. There are several different postures that you can actually assume in a workplace or a business environment. You can actually, there are ways to sit comfortably while maintaining a posture, or there are ways to do stuff with postures and gestures. However, speaking in a particular posture also means that that your thought process and and the other person will actually listen to you much more attentively. If you speak attentively, in a manner, it is basically a psychological aspect of spoken English. These aspects may not actually occur to many people. However, they actually impact the flow of the conversation a lot more than many people understand. A posture or particular gesture. For example, I could just start speaking normally about anything like this, as if the clouds in the sky are blue today, the weather has been really good, and other stuff. However, if I just start doing just random gestures in this, like flailing my hands around for no particular reason, looking, breaking eye contact, giving up different facial expressions for no apparent reason, then these will be bad gestures that I'm actually giving my listener. Just as gestures are extremely important, you actually have to only gesture to a particular extent. I have to move my hands when I have to emphasize something. I cannot just go around flailing my hands willy nilly. Similarly, this thing comes upon intonation. How I use my voice, uh, there is a there are some doubts. We will get to the doubts after the session. We will schedule half an hour for doubts after the session. Please wait for your doubts if that's if if that is not a problem with you. Anyway, getting back to the point, what does intonation mean, and why should I focus on it? The intonation part actually gets to most people. You probably have a particular family member that speaks very loudly. It has nothing to do with the conversation they're having. They talk the conversation is totally fine. They're not angry, they're not doing anything. However, they are just speaking loudly. It's just the tone of their voice. That particular thing is known as intonation. How softly you can speak or how loudly you can speak. Now, intonation also changes the flow of a conversation. It can show different emotions without you having to discuss or say the word for a particular emotion. This means that in a case where a participant is rather frustrated or rather angry in a conversation, they can actually raise their tone to emphasize that they are not happy, or they are not exactly agreeing with the set of things. They can Intonation can actually show you emotional force behind a particular sentence, or how much something means to someone. Similarly, a softer intonation symbolizes something that a participant is very much comfortable with. These things are much more important in the flow of a conversation. Now, the thing is, there are several advantages of good communication skills. For example, a good command on English allows you to communicate effectively with your colleagues and superiors. What this means comes back to the first point that we had, is that in a workplace, there is always a workplace strata, or or a hierarchy, as to, to say it is simply, in the workplace, there's always a hierarchy. You cannot speak to your senior the way you speak to your junior. You cannot speak to your junior the way you speak to your senior. This means that unless you have a proper grasp of the language of English, in this case, you cannot actually hope to achieve proper communication with any of your colleagues. Second point is, it will enable you to adequately express and represent yourself in front of an audience. To The basis of communication starts when a person is able to put their thoughts in the form of words to get to another person so that that person can actually process those words and understand the reason behind that thought. This is the basics. This is the basis of any communication. Knowing a particular language, having a vast vocabulary actually allows you to much more, it enables you to adequately express yourself. It is basically expression of one's thoughts, expressions of one's beliefs, expression of one's ideologies, etc. However, in the workplace, it actually allows you far, it allows you a scale of far much more freedom of doing things such as such as saying stuff that usually wouldn't fly by. You can just change the way in which you want to say a particular thing. You will start developing high interpersonal and networking skills. The more you start speaking with your colleagues, the more you start mixing up with them. You start having different sorts of networks with with those people. You can actually start have you get much more acquainted with people in different backgrounds, much more different than yours. In the workplace, there are all sorts of people, and that actually helps you grow as a person. It will provide you confidence while delivering presentations and speeches. Something in a workplace environment, presentations and speeches are something that a person cannot exactly escape. You have to give a presentation in any at some point in your workplace, be it a presentation related to your work, be it a presentation related to management, etc. English speaking actually enables you to do that. Good communication will help you make a good first impression, be it at a job or a business event. This essentially is not true, but it is sort of true. What I mean by that is that since English is a much better intermediary language, any person that knows that particular intermediary language can be much more preferred, as that person joining a particular task force can actually communicate much better with the strata of the people in that task force. That is why English is much more preferred, and that is why a candidate with better communication skills will always be preferred over a candidate that has low communication skills. It will it will provide you with confidence while delivering good communication. It will be of great assistance when you travel to a different country or working in an international company. See, the differences in a workplace don't exactly end with your workplace. Sometimes you have to collaborate with projects with different people from different countries. Now, this actually means that that person also has to know the language similar to you. English is world's most spoken language in this regard, so it is a much better language to actually speak or communicate in internationally. This actually gives, and the final point would be English language places you in a position where you can express yourself to everyone in a common language, basically saying that English is a better intermediary language as it covers a vast strata of people and a much bigger population that speaks it. In summary, we can actually say that English at workplace is much more different than English spoken casually. English at workplace has different formats, and English at workplace has different values and different ways in which it works. Intonations, gestures, postures, vocabulary, eloquency, everything else works in the workplace differently. Casually, you don't exactly use big words. In the workplace, you do similar things. So basically, English in the workplace is much more different than casual English, and so on and so forth. If anyone has any questions, we will start taking questions now. We have a question from Miss from Mr. Padma, Balusu Padmavati. Sir, I have a doubt. Can we use block format for all types of letters? You cannot use block format for all types of letters, official and personal. Usually, different organizations use different formats. For example, if you are a researcher or something, you actually receive formats that are pre-planned from particular places. For example, if you are trying to publish a paper or trying to send a report, that organization usually has a sort of a template that you need to follow. You need to search for that particular template, or you can actually use internet and search what is actually acceptable in an official setting for that particular letter, both for official and both for personal. Any other questions would be highly welcome. Uh, if if today's session was any help, was in some way helpful for you, or if someone actually wants to join in for further studies, we have programs for that. We at Bharat Digital Academy, we actually run courses for spoken English and personality development. These in the fee structure and the particular courses are shown on your screen. We run them both in online mode and offline mode, and currently they are on discount. If you have any questions, we are still taking questions. Please feel free to drop them in the in-call messages. This is a free session, Diksha Gupta. I don't think that certificates will be awarded for a free session. So,
Yes, dear participant.
Hello, sir.
Yes,
Sir, if offline, if online mode, what is the timing of the class and duration, starting date?
your voice is not clear, sir.
When you
Sir,
start
actually,
the
we are.
workshop, sir, 45 days workshop.
Yes,
45 days training is when you start
the time was 6 p.m.
6 p.m. When you start, sir, which date starting in February or May month or summer?
So kindly write your questions. Actually, your voice is not clear. Actually, a participant, we are conducting a class for this course, so we are not able to give you certificate, e-certificate. No? This is actually the information, information regarding our courses, English speaking courses. So those want to actually get those want to uh, admission in these courses is all fees structure is here. We have the three type of courses: beginner, advanced, and advanced beginner, and IELT. This fees is in our screen. Anyone want to ask any questions regarding the sessions? Anyone want to ask any questions? This course will be start from the first step. Actually, we are conducting this course, the learning of objective. The participant should be able to identify nature and purpose of the English speaking. The participant should be able to the difference between types and good English. The course of syllabus, listening, the pronunciation, listening and comprehensions, reading skills, vocabulary and words formations, basic grammars, practice, words and phrase use for conversation. And there are four type of the questions. Course is available here: beginner for beginners, advanced, beginner plus advanced, or IELT, International English Language Testing. There is a course for 40 days, 45 beginner level course. There are advanced level course is also 45 days. The 90 days course, beginner and advanced level, and 30 days international English language testing course. Anyone want to ask some things? We will provide you the free fee structure of your this course. beginner level 45 days, online mode 3000 after the discount 1500, and offline mode 4000 and discount 30. Thank you everyone for coming this webinar. Those want to join the subscribe the course, kindly ask me at this number.